Hello students, the theme of our lesson today, power plant. The quotation of our lesson today: it's possible to fly without motors, but not without knowledge and skills. Wilbur Wright. The aims of our lesson today. Today we develop your knowledge of content-related lexes, develop your listening skills to distinguish information, and I hope we increase your knowledge of subject content. By the end of our lesson, you will be able to use the new vocabulary on the topic power plant. So, revision. As a revision today, we have dictation, lexical dictation. Dictation of the words which we learned previously on the topic landing gear. You are given 10 words in Russian. You have to translate them in English. So, for this work, I give you 3 minutes. And the second dictation, you are given 5 words, 5 sentences. Your task is translate from Russian to English and in turns from English to Russian. And for this work, you are given 4 minutes. Well, next stage. Your task there is translate the sentences which are given there. The engine must be started easily. Many types of engine are used for various purposes. You have to translate them and explain grammatical forms of the sentences. Analyze them. As a hint, you are given the modal verbs and how to make passive form of the verb with the help of the verb to be and the main verb with ending ed if it's regular verb and the third form of irregular verb. So, after that, you have to make your own sentences with the using of the verb, modal verb, and the in passive form of the verb. Next stage. You have to practice using modal verbs and the phrases in the brackets which are given in each sentence contain modal verbs. You have to substitute phrases in Russian for their English counterparts. So, I give you A as an example. So, before doing these sentences, you have to read and analyze it. Is it passive or active voice? What tense, present or past? Different types of engines must have advantages and disadvantages over other forms of power plant. Разные типы двигателей должны иметь как преимущества, так и недостатки над другими видами двигателей. So, according to my example, you have to do other sentences. Next stage. Main part of our lesson, power plant. The new vocabulary. I'm going to read the new words. You have to repeat after me. Power plant, power plant. Requirement, requirement. Demand, demand. Demand is the synonym of requirement. Thrust, thrust. Power ratio, power ratio. Reliability, reliability. Consumption, consumption. Atmospheric conditions, atmospheric conditions. Advantage, advantage. Disadvantage. And the verbs: to reduce, to reduce, to define, to define, to consume, to consume, to exist, to exist. And reciprocating engine, reciprocating engine. Next. Now guys, you are going to watch video. Here is the link for our video. Before watching video, guys, I'm going to give you some questions. While watching, guys, you have to write all the unknown words which you are going to meet in the video. So, as a help for you, in the video, while watching, you will have subtitles. And the task for you after watching the video, you have to tell and understand what are the types of power plant? Well, let us start watching.
In its simplest form, a power plant, known also as a power station, is an industrial facility used to generate electricity. To generate power, a power plant needs to have an energy source. One source of energy is from the burning of fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, and natural gas. Then we also have nuclear power. And finally, renewable energy sources such as wind, solar, wave, and hydroelectric. Originally, the only source of power was direct current, or DC systems. But it wasn't until alternating current, or AC systems were introduced that the power could be carried the distances necessary to be suitable for distribution to the masses. Hydroelectric power plants generate power by converting the force of water to turn large generators. Hydroelectric power plants fall into three different categories. First up is impoundment. An impoundment facility typically uses a store of river water from a dam in a reservoir. When water is released from the reservoir, it flows through a turbine, which generates motion. This turning motion activates a generator to produce electricity. Next up, we have diversion. A diversion is fairly similar to an impoundment facility, but may not need the use of a dam, but works by channeling a portion of a river through a canal or a penstock. The last type of hydroelectric power plant is pumped storage. Pumped storage stores its energy by pumping water uphill to a reservoir at a higher elevation. When there is a demand for power, the water is released from the high elevated reservoir into a lower reservoir. This generates electricity when it flows through a turbine, generating motion and electricity. Thermal power plants generate electricity by converting heat into electricity, essentially by burning a fuel. One example of this is a nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plants use reactors' heat to turn water into steam. The steam is then sent through a turbine, which, as we've already learned, generates movement of a generator, which in turn generates electricity. A coal power plant works in much the same way, but instead of a nuclear reactor heating water to make steam, the heat from the burning coal powers a steam turbine. The next type of power plant we will look at is a solar power plant. This type of plant uses the sun's energy to convert into electricity. This is achieved by using photovoltaic or PV panels, made up from a number of semiconductor cells that release electrons when they are warmed by the thermal energy of the sun. Solar energy is one of the cleanest ways of generating electricity. The solar panels get connected to the grid and can be used to supplement a thermal power plant resources. They can be used in domestic environments too, and with the aid of batteries, can reduce households' energy consumption drastically without burning any fossil fuels. Last but not least, we have wind power plants. Wind power plants, or wind turbines, get their energy from the wind by connecting a generator to the blades. The rotational movement of the blades, caused by the wind, powers a generator. Like solar power, they are a clean source of energy, but require much more hardware to work effectively, and with many more parts, are more likely to fail. Like many things nowadays, power plants are controlled.
Okay, so after watching the video, your task is just to tell, and you may write in your copybook, what are the types of power plant which generate the energy. Well, next, reading section. Now I'm going to read the text. All the underlined words in the text are given for you to translate them and write in the copybook. So, Let us listen the reading. Any kind of vehicles must move. The ability to move demands power. A machine that produces mechanical power or energy is called an engine or a power plant. Every engine must meet a number of requirements. First of all, engine must have the maximum power or thrust for minimum weight. Therefore, every engine is to have the reduced weight per horsepower of the engine. The weight in pounds per horsepower output may be defined as weight to power ratio. Then the fuel consumption must be as low as possible, and on the contrary, the amount of power produced from consumed fuel for a given period of time must be as high as possible. Another demand is proper engine flexibility. Flexibility is the ability to run smoothly and perform properly at all speeds and through all variation of atmospheric condition. One more important requirement is the engine reliability. The engine is to have a long life with maximum of time between overhaul periods. Besides, any engine must be started easily and carry its full load in few minutes. The necessity of carrying away excess heat developed by the engine has always been a problem of first importance too. As mentioned before, the power plant is a means of propulsion. Nowadays, there exist many types of engines used for various purposes. There are gasoline engines, diesel engines, gas turbines, jet engines, and rocket engines. Each of them has certain advantages and disadvantages over other forms of power plant. Well, now guys, you have to read by yourself all the text and translate. You have to understand the whole section, the whole paragraph. Now, as a comprehension, you have to fill the diagram according to the text power plant. What are the 4 requirements of the power plant? You have to find in the text all the answers. Well, revision and comprehension of the vocabulary. Consolidation of the vocabulary. You are given the words in Russian. Your task is just to find equivalents in English. All the equivalents you can find in the text. For this work, you are given 5-6 minutes. Now guys, comprehension reading. You have to answer the questions. Question number 1. What machine produces thrust? Number 2. What must the weight of any engine be? Number 3. What is the engine flexibility? Number 4. What must the period between engine overhauls be? Number 5. What necessity arises due to excess heat of a power plant? Number 6. How can you characterize the variation power plant? Number 7. What types of engine do there exist nowadays? For the first question, guys, I give you as an example. The half of the question contains the answer. So you may answer like this. Machine which produces thrust is power plant. Or you can answer like this. Thrust is produced by the engine. So you may use the passive form of the verb. Passive voice means. So all the questions and all the answers you have to write in your copybook. Okay. Next, comprehension reading and consolidation of the vocabulary. Here is the task. You have to find the correct definition to each of the term. So, on the left, you are given 7 words, and on the right, you are given the definitions to each word. So you have to match definitions and the words. For this work, you are given also 5-7 minutes. Speaking section. At this stage, guys, you have to work in pairs or You have to find the information from the text and prepare it in order to talk about the requirements of aircraft power plant. So for this work you are given 15-20 minutes. And the last, your task for self-preparation work. You have to translate the sentences into English. Here are 5 sentences. The second task, you have to rearrange the words to make a meaningful sentences and write them down. And the last question, you have to prepare the presentation about different types of a power plant using the information from the text, and you can find the extra information in the internet. Thank you for your attention. Hope the whole information was very useful. Goodbye.